Well, hi, and welcome to our introduction to the Multistate Essay Exam and the Uniform Bar Exam. Sometimes I feel like this really ought to be just called the alphabet soup because there are so many acronyms and letters involved. So let me start by sort of telling you what each of these things stand for and what each exam is. The Multistate Essay Exam, the MEE, is a series of essay questions, as you might imagine. It can stand alone in a particular jurisdiction, we'll talk more about that, or it can be part of something called the Uniform Bar Exam, or the UBE. Now, in jurisdictions that administer the Uniform Bar Exam, in addition to the Multistate Essay Exam, there is the Multistate Bar Exam, the MBE, and the Multistate Performance Test, the MPT. So if you got all that straight, you're way ahead of the game. Now, let me start with this component of the Multistate Essay Exam because whether you're in a jurisdiction that uses MEE questions along with some state material in the multistate, or you're in a Uniform Bar Exam jurisdiction, you're going to be dealing with this thing called the Multistate Essay Exam. The Multistate Essay Exam essentially is anywhere from 2 up to 6 30-minute questions per administration of the exam. Now, if you're in a jurisdiction that just uses some of the MEE questions, they may not pick all 6 questions, but they don't take more than 6. So you want to check with your bar and see. There are some jurisdictions, for example, that take 2 questions or 4 questions. Typically, they take 4 or they take the whole 6. In any event, a user jurisdiction that is not a Uniform Bar Exam jurisdiction picks which of the 6 questions prepared by the National Conference of Bar Examiners, and wait, here's more letters, NCBE, so you get to select which of the 6 questions that they want to use. Now, if you're in a jurisdiction that administers the UBE, you'll be getting all 6 of the MEE questions along with the performance test and the Multistate Bar Exam. Now, regardless of what way you're taking that, in other words, what part of the exam it's in, the multi-state essay questions are drafted by a national group using outside experts in the field. They're drafted, pre-tested, and analyzed. In other words, they're not created by your state's bar exam jurisdiction writers or administrators. Now, the purpose of the multi-state essay exam, based on what the examiners tell us, is really to do 4 things. It's to test first your ability to identify legal problems raised by a hypothetical fact situation. Secondly, it's to separate material that's relevant from material that's not relevant. Third, it is to present a reasoned analysis of the relevant legal problems in a clear, concise, and well-organized composition. And finally, it's to demonstrate an understanding of the fundamental legal principles relevant to the possible solution of the problem raised by the factual situation. The primary distinction between the multi-state essay exam and the multi-state bar exam is that the multi-state essay exam requires you to demonstrate an ability to communicate effectively in writing. Now, note what it doesn't say. It doesn't say it's an issue spotter. It doesn't say that it's designed to test your ability to memorize rules of law. It does not test your ability to recite the elements of law. And so we've designed our course to prepare you for the MEE, built on what the exam is actually testing. That is, to write a effective, clear piece of writing that communicates to the reader that you understand what the legal problems are, you know what's relevant versus irrelevant. In other words, you're not an issue spotter. You can provide a reasoned analysis that's clear, concise, and well organized. We'll show you how to do that. And to demonstrate an understanding of fundamental legal principles that are relevant to the problem. In other words, not the ones that are irrelevant to the problem. So it's a very discrete, very focused kind of an exam. Now, there are many areas of law that can be covered on the multi-state essay exam, and obviously it depends on what jurisdiction you're in as to which ones they'll use, and it typically varies from exam to exam. But even if you're taking the Uniform Bar Exam, you're going to be getting 6 questions drawn from this following list. So here's the list of testable topics. The first is called business associations, and this is actually drawn from several different areas. It can come from agency and partnership law, from corporations, and from limited liability companies. So any combination of those or any one of those by themselves would be called business associations. The next is conflicts of laws. This is rarely tested by itself. Typically it is part of some other question. The next is constitutional law, typically as you see it on the multi-state bar exam. The next is contracts, again a multi-state bar topic, and that would include Article 2 of the UCC. The next subject is criminal law and procedure, again as it's tested in the multi-state. Evidence, which is the federal rules of evidence, not your state rules of evidence. So you might be in a jurisdiction that tests evidence on the state portion. If that's true, you can assume that there will not be an MEE question on evidence in your exam. Domestic relations, again, this is generic law, not state law. So if your jurisdiction has family law as a testable subject, you would not expect to see this on your MEE. The next is the new topic for the multi-state bar beginning in 2015, which is federal civil procedure. And in a move, a switch from earlier years, federal civil procedure and jurisdiction for the purposes of the MEE and the MBE are actually being merged into one outline. So the material that you learn for the multi-state bar will be appropriate for the essays, and our materials reflect that. Next is the topic of real property. Again, that's a multi-state subject. Next is the area of torts. Again, a multi-state subject. The next subject is the broadly defined subject of trusts and estates, actually made up of decedents' estates, which is another term for wills, and then trusts, and then future interests. So again, within trusts and estates, you could see a trust question, a wills question, a future interest question, any combination of the above. So that is the broad category. And then the Uniform Commercial Code, which is also changing effective 2015. Up until this point, the MEE had been testing Articles 3 and 4 of the Uniform Commercial Code. That's negotiable instruments and bank deposits. Effective in 2015, those subjects are removed, and now we're simply into UCC Article 9, which is secured transactions. So just again to re-emphasize, beginning in 2015, secured transactions will be on the test, or potentially on the test, but negotiable instruments and bank collections have been removed. Now, you should also know that some questions can include topics in more than one area of law. You see this occasionally with something like conflict of laws, or maybe the UCC secured transactions being put into something, or evidence, or civil procedure, a variety of different ways that you might see this. But functionally, you should know that it's not just one topic necessarily per question. Particular areas covered obviously vary from exam to exam. So those are the things that you need to know about the multi-state essay exam. Now, if you're in a jurisdiction that's called a UBE jurisdiction, you will take 6 multi-state essay questions. You will also then have 2 multi-state performance test questions. The MPT is essentially a 90-minute package in which you're asked to do a writing task as a lawyer. And typically what you're going to be looking at is either an objective writing task or a persuasive writing task, and that task will be directed typically at a legal audience, although sometimes it's a non-legal audience. Within the materials given to you for the performance test will be a file which typically includes some testimony or notes or background information or whatever material has been gathered about the problem, and then a library which is made up of hypothetical statutes and case law, and you are then given a task that you are asked to do within this 90-minute period of time. The performance test is designed to simulate the way lawyers would work in the real world. I'll save my comments about the efficacy of that for the course itself, but that is the task in front of you. So in the UBE, you'll have 2 of those 90-minute tests plus 6 multi-state essay exams. That will be the Tuesday part of the UBE. It'll also be if you're in an MEE jurisdiction, your questions will be given on Tuesday as well. And then on Wednesday of your exam is the multi-state bar exam. So that's the general structure in both of those tests. Now, because every jurisdiction that uses the MEE or the UBE grades them independently and separately, there's not much I can tell you about grading. But let me say this about the way essays are graded generally. For the most part, the grading of the multi-state essay exam is done on a holistic scale of 0 to 6 points per essay. A 0 would be a completely non-written answer, 6 would be a perfect answer. Most applicants would be aiming for 4s and 5s as passing scores. You could have an occasional 3 in there. If you're getting 1s or 2s, you're probably going to fail that part of the exam, and that may be sufficient to keep you from passing the overall test. We'll talk more about that when you're in our course, but I'd just like you to know that it's based on this sort of generic holistic scoring using the 4 criteria that I gave you. A typical multi-state essay exam question will have 2 or 3 calls of the question in that 30-minute time period. Some of those calls may have some subpoints to them, and typically you're looking at about a 600 to 900 word typewritten essay would be the expectation in that period of time. Now, how do we prepare for the multi-state essay exam in the UBE? Well, we've been teaching the Bar Review, as I'm recording this, for over 20 years now at Celebration Bar Review, and we've taken that skill set and taken it to the MEE when it came out, and now to the UBE as it's expanding across the country. And the way that we prepare the course is to provide really a 3-legged stool. We're going to begin by having you read a subject outline for each of these subjects that's potentially testable. Then we have lectures in which I'll go over that material, video and audio lectures to help you work through the material. And then we have practice questions for you. We'll have essay questions for all of the topics in the MEE and UBE. We'll have practice questions for the multi-state performance test, and of course we have practice questions for the multi-state bar exam, and I detail the multi-state bar exam in another of our lectures here on the website, so check that out if you need more information about that part of the test. We'll continue throughout the course to repeat that pattern of reading, lecture, and question practice, and then coming back to earlier subjects to repeat them as well. And we'll guide all of that for you through a document that we call our personal study guide, which will identify the order of assignments, the way that we want you to work through the material, and how long each assignment will take. In general, to prepare for both the multi-state essay and the performance test and the multi-state bar exam, you should plan on about 250 to 300 hours of total study time. That study time in general could be broken down to about 20 hours per week if you begin 4 to 6 months before the bar exam, and that would be our recommendation to you. You certainly can do it in less time if you've got the time available, but for most people who are practitioners or have family or other obligations, 20 hours a week is manageable, and so that's our recommendation to you. Now, within our course, we'll also offer you different levels of mentoring in which you send your written work in, and you'll be conferencing with me about that work. And I find that that's a very useful thing for our students to do. Over the years that we've been teaching, we've had much higher than the state average pass rates in every jurisdiction, and that continues to be true with the UBE and the MEE. I can tell you that the national passing rates on these tests is typically in the low 70s, 70 to 75%. We've managed to stay well above that rate now for many, many years, and that would be our expectation as we go forward. There are lots of changes happening in the bar exam in these particular tests as the national conference adjusts and adds topics like federal civil procedure and jurisdiction, takes away some topics, and we're right on top of those with our materials and our preparation. And so I invite you to check out our website and look at our materials. And then if you've got questions, feel free to contact me directly. My direct phone number is 864-365-6083. I'd be glad to answer any questions that you've got about the exam or about our preparation. But I really appreciate you taking the time to watch this short video, and I look forward to being able to celebrate with you your success on the MEE, the UBE, the MPT, or the MBE, as the case may be. Thanks so much, and good luck to you.